So Eclectic Grandpa, have you heard of it? It is the big trend of 2024 already, so I have done what I always do, which is take a trend and turn it into an amazing list of baby names, because baby names do follow trends, they follow aesthetics, and at the moment the Eclectic Grandpa trend is so perfect and ripe for some amazing baby boy names. So my name's SJ, I'm a baby name consultant. You can follow me here on YouTube for loads of baby name ideas and inspo. There's tons of videos here. I'm sure you'll find a baby name that you like, and hit subscribe if you love this name list. I'm going to do the girl version as well next week, and I know there's not specifically supposed to be an eclectic grandma, but of course there is. The Eclectic Grandpa style is all about it being sentimental but really unique and different. It's basically Harry Styles. So all of these names, think Harry Styles in your head. I'm sure you'll have a very pleasant 12 minutes. So it should be retro, but it also should be playful, not too obvious, not something you would just think, oh yeah, I've seen that before. So the first name I have is the name Wallace. So this has just got Eclectic Grandpa all over it. I can just see Wallace in his sweater vest. It sounds like a Scottish name because you think about the Scottish clan, the William Wallace, but it actually means Welshman. So it's got that really Celtic vibe, if that is where you're looking for a name, but it's also got the surname as first name, cool, that's been around for ages, but it's actually a vintage first name as well. It is actually trending at the moment, so it's going up, but it's so low down the chart. There were only 18 boys named Wallace last year, so I'm always trying to find you something that's a little bit more unique, but really works as a name. It also has the meaning of foreigner, so it came from an old word, which is something like Wallish, which used to mean foreigner. So when people would enter those Celtic regions, they would be known as Wallace. So I love the history of it. I think it's got so much going for it. I love the name. Would you be brave enough for Wally as a nickname? Maybe not yet, but I love it. The next name is totally unranked, and it's the name of an old rockabilly singer. I really think it fits this vibe. It's the name Dorsey. So I know it's a little bit different, but it's a version or a change up of the name Darcy. And Darcy's been around for ages, a gender neutral name, but becoming more feminine. So I actually think that Dorsey is really cool. It's so got that sort of Eclectic Grandpa vibe. It just feels like a really warm name. It really invites you in. So Dorsey Burnett was a rockabilly singer who kind of made this name fly. It's old French originally, so if you've got French roots, I think it's a real classic and real good little Eclectic Grandpa name. Ranked at 383 in the UK, a name you'll have heard is the name Jimmy. So Jimmy is a nickname as first name, so it's a variation of Jacob or James, but it's that nickname, vintage nickname as first name trend we see all over the charts, more for our girls. And Jimmy, a 383, is really holding steady around there, so it's not in danger of flying up the charts or falling out of the charts. So if that's kind of your sweet spot, I speak to a lot of people who are trying to find a name that is well known, cool, but underused, and I feel like Jimmy tick 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 all of those spots. I just really think it's a trendy name. I love Jim as well as a little nickname. I think it's super adorable. I feel like if you have this sort of vintage style, like Jimmy could be a brother for like an Olive, Jimmy and Olive, or Jimmy and Martha. They just sound really good when you think about it. It really is evocative of a trendy, cool first name. This next name is on a downward trend, but I think is about to go up, and it's the name Bobby. So Bobby is actually sort of going down the charts a little bit, which is a really good place to scoop up a gem. But I think with Bobby Brazier in the UK, he's sort of coming through as a celebrity. He was just on Strictly Come Dancing. The name's been around a lot more. It's a gender neutral name, so it's used for girls and boys, which I love about it. And I quite like the fact that Bobby is like a sort of old-fashioned word for a policeman. Remember, you call them a Bobby on the beat. I think that gives it this sort of quintessentially quirky little vibe as well. Obviously, it's short for Robert, so if you're honouring a Robert, but Robert as a granddad name is a little bit less Eclectic Grandpa and a bit more traditional grandpa, whereas I think Bobby plays around with it a little bit more. Totally unranked is the name Lawton. And I really like it. It's again, I've gone a bit like surname as first name vibes for this trend, because I just think it works so well when you're looking for that sort of grandpa name. It gives it that sort of grandpa seriousness, but then using the surname as the first name is quite playful and gets you to those quirkier names. It's always a little good place to look through your own family tree for surnames and find one. But Lawton, it means hill town, and specifically it meant hill town by a farm. And it is the city name, so it's a place name as well. So if you love to travel, there's lots of places called Lawton, which I always think is super cute. cute. Apparently it's the 5th biggest town in Oklahoma. Gives it that sort of like quirky country vibes as well, but I think Lawton sounds really good. It's very handsome, is very much sweater vest. He's gonna have some dark rimmed glasses. I think it's just a really dead trendy name for a trendy couple looking for vintage vibes that aren't overused. And it's very, very ancient English. As much as it's travelled as a place name, its roots are right back in English heritage, so it's really cool. It's very dapper, I would say. Lawton, dapper is the word for it. Next up, I know this is going to be a Marmite name, but what about the name Earl? So a 1-syllable gem, Earl. It's so quintessential. It's a title name, and those title names, we have to say, they are really popular at the moment, like Prince, Saint, those types of names, Baron. But I love Earl. I think it is makes you smile. It is super quirky choice because it will be a totally controversial choice. But we love Pearl. Why not Earl? It really peaked, this name, back in the 1920s, and so it's had that time to sort of ruminate, go out of style, and now in the 2020s I feel it could come back. I think that it wouldn't get raised an eyebrow amongst their own playmates. It's a 1-syllable name that totally fits in with lots of others. It's just more that we have that old grandpa vibe that hasn't quite come back yet. So there were 4 baby boys called Earl last year. I wonder if it's going to go up in the charts. The charts are coming out soon, so hang around so we can look at what's rising and falling in a few weeks time, fingers crossed. But I am all for an Earl. There were 8 boys named Floyd last year, and Floyd is a super vintage name, hasn't yet come back. We're digging in the gold mine here. So I love Floyd. I think it is so playful, so cheeky, totally hits this eclectic grandpa vibe of it being kind of like, it actually means grey, and the colours for the eclectic grandpa vibe are those sort of greys and those browns. So it's quite cool. But you think about it being quite an old gentleman's name, but also you think about Pink Floyd, the band, as well, and that might sell it to a few people. Pink Floyd is actually named after 2 blues artists, Pink Anderson and Floyd Council, and then they put those 2 together. So it's got this sort of bluesy music heritage as well, but it's also got this vintage grandpa gold dust to it. Floyd, you know, I love F names. I've got a Freddie and a Finn, and Floyd would totally be, it's phonetic, and that's what I love about all these names. They are not unusual, they're unique, as in they're not used so much, but everyone knows how to say it, everyone can spell it, and it's a really trendy name, hasn't come back yet. Family name from the 1920s is the name Casper, and I really like it. I feel like if you like Casper, which I really did, but I could never quite get over the line with it because of more modern associations, I guess. Casper takes it all the way back, and it's a Kentish name originally, so it's from the region of Kent. If you are, hi, I went to uni in Kent. What similarities we have. So yeah, Kentish Casper, and I love the nickname Cass by itself. I think it is dead cool for a little boy. If like Casper, if I was creating an outfit for Eclectic Grandpa, you could totally see it being called Casper. It actually means treasurer or clever, and then born of somebody, the treasurer and the clever. So maybe what that says about you, I don't know. You're very clever if you use the name Casper, but it's just a really trendy one, really, really unique, but really wearable. It's only 2 syllables, so even though it's a longer name, it's not complicated. I think would match with a lot of surnames. Really trying to sell it because I really like it. A huge name you'll all know, but was only given to 12 boys last year, is the name Howard. So Howard is so eclectic grandpa. My shirt could be called Howard. And I love the nickname Howie so much. This name boomed in the 1920s. It was absolutely everywhere. It's the dad on Happy Days, which feels so perfect for this type of vibe. But I think Howard is so lovely. It actually means heart brave, which I really like. And I feel like meanings can sometimes tip us from, well, always tip us from like to love. And it might have a lot of meaning to somebody that it means heart brave. And Howard being, obviously I think of Howard from Take That because that is my era, but I think it's a really name that hasn't come back yet but should. I love Howie as a nickname. It's got that sort of more kitsch, playful vibe of the Eclectic Grandpa style, but Howard I think as a whole is lovely. And it also can sometimes mean, you know, to be in charge of something like a ward, so when you're looking after somebody with a brave heart, I think that that's really, really lovely. I think it's sort of this perfect in-between place of like, if you like names like Arthur or names like Harvey, and Howard really fits within that group. They're within that tribe of names. I can see like a little Howard and a Winnie. That would be so adorable as a little sibling set. So I feel like where Winnie is really popular, Howie or Howard is the boy version of it. So if you've got Winnie on your list, I challenge you to also list Howard. This next name is a tiny little bit of a tick up the charts, but it is super rare but rising. It was only given to 10 boys last year, but 10's quite a lot for this name, and it's the name Melvin. So somebody on Instagram recently DM'd me and asked me, you've never put Melvin on a name list? And I was like, I know, actually, because I had an uncle Melvin. So for me, it was just so associated with him, I just never thought about it. But when I heard the name by itself, I absolutely love it. And I'm sure I have talked about it. Maybe it was on the podcast, because I went to a YouTube conference and this really young, cool guy got up to present and his name was Melvin. And I was like, suddenly the name just sung differently to me. Sorry, Uncle Mel. I think the Mel nickname also put me off, whereas I think you definitely would go with Vinny, which tick into this Eclectic Grandpa, cool name with a cool nickname. Melvin's got a really interesting name meaning, because it means strong friend or gentle chief. So like two opposites. I was like, which one is it? But I really like it. There's also Melville, which comes up a little bit if the N ending felt too strong for you, Melville. But I feel like that's for me not as lovely as Melvin. I think Melvin sounds really, really cool. Think about Calvin. That name's been around for a while. We really, really like it. Melvin does really tick a lot of boxes. I just crack it. I had to break because my husband literally shouts on his work calls. He yells. And I just heard him say, I've got to close the door because my wife says I'm shouting. Which he is shouting. Can you hear him? Honestly. He's doing banking. We're doing baby names. I should be the one shouting. Where was I? Melvin. Have I sold you on the Vin? Melvin. So next one is the name Clyde. So this has a real sort of retro bad boy feel because of Bonnie and Clyde. And I do love the name Bonnie as well. But Clyde is starting to peak on people's name lists, but I haven't actually seen anyone use it. There were only 6 boys named Clyde the whole of last year. 6. And it's such a cool 1-syllable name that everyone knows again. And I feel like it's a slightly edgier version than Clive, which I do like. But I think that if we're looking for this Eclectic Grandpa style, who isn't now? We're 10 minutes in and you're totally sold. But like Clyde really, really works. And it's a Scottish name. There is the River Clyde in Scotland that goes through Glasgow, if I'm not wrong. And this name was top in the 30s right through to the 50s, and then sort of went out of style after Bonnie and Clyde because they were like notorious bank robbers. But I feel like now that's kind of gone far enough away in the past that it will become less and less notorious, less and less associated with this name, and you get this 1-syllable super cool, super retro name that is perfect for a little 2024 baby. This next name is a gender neutral name that I'm crushing on for girls, but I do also love it for boys, and it's the name Emory. So it was given to just 5 boys last year, but it's a super rare vintage name, and it means home strength, which I personally absolutely love. I think there's so many reasons why that meaning might mean something personal to a lot of people. Home strength, whether that means you get your strength from home or they're just coming home and you're feeling stronger, whatever it might be, it's a really lovely reason to use Emory. I love how soft the name is. To me it's like Emerson, which I've loved for years, but I almost prefer Emory at the moment. It just feels much more unique, much more unusual, and I've heard Emerson, if it's been pinched or you don't love Sunny as a nickname, Emory sort of puts both the nickname and the full name together. So there's lots of reasons to use it. I feel this sits in the camp of like Sawyer that I love, like Hudson that I loved, Emory. It really, really works as a sort of really edgy, cool name, and Emory is certainly a very cool, fashionable young guy. The next name is trending at the moment, but is still low down the charts, and it's the name Hector. So I know a few people with babies called Hector. Do you love it? Is it already on your list? It is known as the sort of, there was a Trojan war hero called Hector who I think was killed by Achilles. I think off the top of my head, obviously I researched that. But it's also just such a strong British name. He was the knight who looked after King Arthur. It's a very vintage throwback. If Howard isn't your vibe, Hector could be, because it's a little bit stronger in its sounds. Did I say there were 185 boys named Hector last year? I think I did. So it is on the rise. It is trending at the moment, which is a nice place to be in because it's rare but rising. Which we always really like for our names over here on the channel, because it means you're getting something that lots of people are liking but hasn't been overused just yet. So Hector is a great choice. And my very last one, it almost sounds similar, so if you like that one, you like this, but it was only given to 5 boys last year, and that's the name Abner. Abner, Abner. So it's quite unusual, but I really like it. So it is an old biblical name and it means father of light, Abner, but I love it because it just feels like one of those really, you know, like I love Ezekiel, I love Boaz, I love these rare Hebrew names, and with Noah being so high up our chart, Abner is not too far behind it. And then we have Albie as well, which I know so many of you love but might have been pinched, and I think Abner's a great place to go if you're in that space. And I feel like it's got this super eclectic grandpa vibe going for it, where it has got that sort of history but it sounds brand new and modern twist on a lot of names that we hear. It was absolutely massive in the 1930s and then it's gone out of style, and there was a guy called Abner Doubleday, which I loved, Abner Doubleday, and he apparently created two amazing things. Apparently the cable car system in San Francisco and baseball depending on what website you read. So he either did a lot, or he's just been very well looked after by Wikipedia somewhere. But I love the name Abner. I think it's super duper dead trendy and would really suit a modern little boy with all those vintage throwback eclectic grandpa vibes. So that is my eclectic grandpa baby name list. I hope there was something in there that you really liked. I'm going to do the girl version. I know it's not eclectic grandma, but the names were just too good not to do, and I've got more girl names as well actually. So I will see you next week on that video. I will see you soon. Bye.